Next we've got Southern Dirt's two project officers presenting our 2019 season results from our trials. It's Melissa Jardine and Sheridan Kowald. Thank them very much for their efforts this year. They've been out there on a Sunday, kids in the car, so they've really put in a big effort, and I'm always impressed about their passion for agriculture and trying to help the local growers. So, Sheridan Kowald.
Hello everyone, I'm Sheridan Kowald, one of the project officers at Southern Dirt. Apologies, Mel is away sick today, and the first half of the slideshow is her projects, so please bear with me as I run through them with you. Oops. So the first one, just going to give a brief overview of our projects that we've done over 2019. Both me and Mel came in July, so we missed the first half, but we've been able to see the rest of the projects roll out and harvest and some results as well, so bear with me please. Legumes crops for reliability, profitability in the Albany Port Zone. The reason why we did this is there's a lack of diversity, need of a profitable break crop in the Albany Port Zone. Our aim to increase awareness of crop types and the varieties available, and hopefully qualify the benefits of the whole system. We're in our third year for this one. We ran one site in 2018, two in 2019 and one in its second year. And in this year we'll have one site being monitored for its second year effects. First site is our Carrolup site. We would like to thank Rob Ladyman for hosting this site as well. With this site, in 2018 we produced legumes, including, there was faba beans, lupins, lentils and chickpeas. The site was monitored to determine the effects of the legumes following a barley crop this year, so the barley crop was in crop this year. Chickpeas were the only variety which showed an increase in nitrogen levels, but there was no significant differences in the yield. A lot of weed control and we think affected this trial, which was limiting the amount of nitrogen that was fixed in the soil. The Marridup site was hosted by Ben Webb, thank you. Located between Kojonup and Boyack Brook, we sown this trial on the 30th of April with faba beans, ceradella, lupins and vetch. A very impressive site. This one was, faba beans were taller than I was, so it was awesome. As we can see with this graph, the pH levels were at optimal levels for sowing the different varieties of legumes. If you have a look at the yield data here, it's obviously performed quite well, especially with a tough season and a dry finish. Ceradella and vetch were hand harvested due to, by the time we got harvest done, which was just a couple of days before Christmas, unfortunately ceradella and vetch had fallen over. However, they were standing quite nicely beforehand. We look at the profitability and revenue in this trial, and the revenue is between $637 and $1,300 per hectare over the 10-year average of the legumes. We expect to see a yield response this season, but other than that, it's quite an impressive revenue. Our Broomhill site, hosted by Craig Bignell, thank you. Same here, we did faba beans, lupins, bolt lentils and chickpeas. With the pH levels, we can see that they were quite below optimal levels. However, we still managed to get some really good data, even with the acidity soils. Despite that the soil was acidic, we still performed the trial and it still did fairly well, even with a tough finish as well as a dry finish. In the season, the same thing, profitability was really great, $734 to $1,122 per hectare over the 10-year average of the legumes, so again, very impressive site. The next project of Mel's optimising timing nitrogen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The girls also did group C's, Mr. B before and after, and they've done soil tests before and after, and hopefully they'll do soil tests again this year to see what effect the different crops have on the group C's over there. And hopefully the residual nitrogen as well, because the lupins and vagrants have a high harvest index, so a lot of the nitrogen would have been taken away, whereas the vegetable that more of a sheep thing. A lower harvest index, so there hopefully more nitrogen left in there.
Just so for people who don't know, Ben is the chair of our R&D.
May I make a point?
And next to that side there was, this year we've done some closet bag and tiny offset this, so we can follow that through. And that will be followed through this year with biomass and yields.
Just a point about pricing. I see you've got very low prices for lupins, 334 in that year. Most lupins tend to be sold farmer to farmer in the sheep belt and at much higher prices than that.
Yeah.
Currently, you'd be looking to get them for $450, $500 a tonne, for instance. So you're penalising lupins because of the price you pay.
Yes, so that pricing's over a 10-year average as well, and because legumes go up and down so much, unfortunately it lands at 334 with the 10-year average. I'm well aware that lupins can be sold for much higher pricing, but just in this over the average, that's the price that we got. So, yeah. Was there anything else?
What's double and single both of them?
So the baby beans, they were single sown and then double sown as well. So
We seem to get a response to the double sown baby beans for some reason. Just visually, I've never measured it, so we decided to see if it's twice and get a yield about a tonne higher roughly.
so it
I'm not
was
sure why that is, but
very it was very impressive. The favour beans were higher than we could to try and get through favour beans first to try and get through all the other crops. We had to hack down the favour beans to make a path. It was really impressive. Timing.
What did you mean by double favour beans?
So they were double sown, double seeded
like you'll make up and back on the same, went up and back.
on the same.
So I've got double seed, double fertiliser. And for whatever reason they yield. And we've done it 3 or 4 times now, and we've noticed that you can see it on the house, but we've never actually measured the yield, which this year we did. And whether it's a phosphorus thing or a seeding wrap thing or a cultivation thing, I don't know.
More investigations needed, Ben.
So next project, optimising timing of rate of nitrogen application in waterlogging conditions in Western region. So last year we had 2 project hosts, Simon Zappy in Maradup and Matt Rigby in Franklin. And then, sorry, that was 2018. And in 2019, last year, we had Simon Hilda in Franklin. The reason why we did this is just to see if we can get larger yield responses, tactically splitting N applications over specific times of the growing season. In Maradup, we had an average rainfall year. Only 20% of the site was waterlogged or became waterlogged. Yield benefits came first from higher overall N rates, and then a second yield increase came from splitting applications. So as you can see with that graph, it's pretty self-explanatory. Treatments with a second later application of N averaged a higher grain protein compared to single earlier N applications. Is also what we found with our results. In Franklin in 2018, same again, we had an average rainfall year. The site was evenly waterlogged during the growing season, although it wasn't extremely severe either. We had higher overall N rates, tended to have higher yields, although this was not statistically significant. Lack of response between the treatments rate and nitrogen of and timing of applications, and this may have been due to good pre-season nitrate in the soils already. If we had more response for nitrogen, then the site may have shown different results, but it didn't. Franklin 2019, we had a slightly lower than average rainfall year, so it's 424 mils. and there was not a huge yield difference between the treatments except for the control and all the other treatments. So the control was 100 kilos per hectare, and then the other treatments was over 230 kilos. Protein was statistically higher with treatments that had a third late nitrogen application, and gross margins showed grower practice to be most profitable treatment. Our results, so the Franklin site showed no significant differences between treatments, and the Marada responded to split applications compared to the single N applications at higher rates. 2019, approximately half the mean rainfall fell in September and October, which favoured the early nitrogen strategy. Yield responses were greatest to nitrogen applied earlier, so June, July, after good rainfall, achieving 5.4 tonne per hectare. Wheat likely achieved its water limiting yield. Yield potential despite the dry finish. So it may show why our results showed more nitrogen, did not improve. Is there any questions on that one? Yes.
Probably as a comment, when you don't get a yield response, you quite often get a protein response. So I assume you've got protein numbers too.
Yeah, so if we go back and have a look, the protein was statistically higher, and even though we didn't necessarily get much of a yield.
And so that indicates that you're at the top of the nitrogen yield response curve.
Yeah, I believe so. Anything else? Is there another hand? Okay. P for pastures, another one of Mel's. So this one's been quite a hefty project, but I think Mel's had a lot of fun with this one as well. So the aim was to reduce phosphorus dependence of Australian temperature pastures by expanding the use of yielding Ceradella-based pastures and having lower fertiliser P requirements. So the phosphorus efficient pastures, so we conduct participatory plot scale experiments in the area of WA and New South Wales, where Ceradella is already grown to assess Ceradella production in response to P fertiliser applications and qualify the critical P level required by the legume. We had a trial in Broome Hill and Katanning. 3 phosphorus rates replicated 3 times were in our trials. As you can see, that is pretty much our layout there. With Katanning, our results, there was no significant difference between the yields, and 2019 yielded significantly lower, and we believe this is because it was a poorer season and it was a lot drier. However, the site did perform well with the difficult season that we had. With Broome Hill, the initial soil results of the Kowald P 14.2 and PBI 32.8. In 2018, higher P treatments yielded 30% higher compared to the medium and low P treatments, despite the nil P applied in 2018. So much like Katanning. With these, although there was no significant differences in yield, we've learnt about the importance of understanding the soil profile. So the slide data shows data from Bradnutt's adjacent site, where we can see the bulge of the historical P at the depth. So we're looking at like here where we've got the 35 and just up here 25. So the P is leaking through the sandy soils and pooling at a depth of anywhere between 30 to 60 centimetres. Due to the P at depth, we were unable to determine the critical P level for Ceradella at these sites. Quite a unexpected finding from this trial, significance being that the soil testing to greater depths, we'll be able to get a better understanding of soil profiles So as you can see, it's really low here as well at our Broomhill site. Achievement of objectives. So we've not yet been able to quantify the critical P level required by Ceradella and the response it has on production in response to P fertiliser to date. A lot of challenges with seasonal conditions and weed control. Findings from 2017 have changed the way that we are going to be collecting soil samples. So trying to go down from 30 to 60 centimetres, not just your average 0 to 10 or 10 to 20. Red-legged earth mites control using intensive grazing and impact on soil fertility. So this is a project that we are doing in conjunction with DPIRD. So showing the short periods of grazing in spring will increase soil fertility and control of insects, pests without the use of insecticides. So we're doing this project with Savet Lana and Paul Stanford from DPIRD. We'll be using spring-timed grazing to levels of 1,400 fu or less to suppress red-legged earth mites and other pests. So with this graph, you can see over the trial that we did last year that the intensive grazing for the 2 to 4 weeks reduced the red-legged earth mites. So this is where we started, and then you can just see the numbers drop as the longer the sheep were being grazed for. Pretty, self-explanatory there. Is there any questions on that one? We've got, this year there's going to be quite a few workshops on that one as well, so there'll be more data in comparison with what I've just shown. So non-wetting management options. So our aim for this one is to increase the grower knowledge of the methods and options we can use to overcome non-wetting in a variety of soil types. So hopefully to increase the growers' confidence in decision making. We're in our final year this year. We have 2 sites in Darkin and Tambela. Our Darkin site, hosted by the Lovekeys, you can see we grew lupins last year. It was we had one side that was ripped, one side with different treatments and one side not ripped with the same treatments. It was quite interesting. It was a pretty sad year. There wasn't much rain and it was quite staggered germination. With the site, lupins were sown in May. We had a control. We had Weta with SC14 at 2.5 litres per hectare, Weta with Flexion, the controlled, and then we have the same treatment with ripping as well. With the results, the ripped only and the 2.5 ripped Flexion and 2.5 with ripped were our highest yield results, as you can see here. And the control with no treatments had the lowest yield results. All very variable as well, and we had all that. It's hard as well because I had to hand harvest that trial as we had pasture cages put in because the grower believed that it wasn't performing well enough. They wanted to graze it instead of harvest it, so which is fine as well. Low rainfall and dry finish. It was very dry out there, so hopefully we'll get some better data off it this year. Our Tambela site, hosted by the Cunninghams, was quite an impressive site as well. So 2 plots were till and ripped, and then Zen wheat was inputted. So we have a control. We have 1 litre of SE14, 2 litres and 4 litres, and then we have a ripped with a 1 litre. We found that the 1 litre SE14 and 2 litres SE14 was the highest yielding, and then the ripped with the 1 litre was the lowest yield results. With the ripped Terraland, that also showed throughout the whole season they had less plant counts, less NDVI readings as well throughout the whole trial, so it followed through with how it yielded. We had a late harvest in January and low rainfall and a dry finish there as well. Any questions on that one? Yes?
Are those results actually statistically different, like those yields?
I'm still waiting for some statistics to come back, but I don't think there was anything statistically from memory.
With the Terraland treatment, was that rolled right seed?
Yeah, so it was the day before that it was rigged.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't
rolled
rolled
after.
after, no.
No, it wasn't rolled
It was
up,
just
so it was
rigged.
pretty messy.
It was a bit fluffy.
Yeah, it was pretty fluffy, and yeah, seeding depth would have been an issue.
Yeah, are you doing the same trial, the same site again this year, or?
Yeah, so it has this year as well,
Yeah.
where we'll,
Yeah.
we won't re-rip it, I think we'll just measure the second year effects.
Yeah, we just measure second year effects, so there will be no wetters and nothing applied on the trial site this coming year.
Yeah,
Just
so
the
it
second
would
year
have
effects
settled
from the
down
first
slightly.
year treatments.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Darwin site was much the same as well, it wasn't rolled after, it was very rocky, however we got higher yield results there.
So if I missed something, were you just comparing yields, or were you also looking at the profit, the costs and income connected to like the cost of ripping?
Just
and so forth?
Yeah, no, it was just yields, we weren't looking at revenue or cost or profit on that.
Is that a suggestion for another project?
Well,
Is
it's
that
all
what you're
about
saying?
profit, isn't it? Yield
Well, we
doesn't
can do
mean
that,
profit.
not a problem, please note, girls.
Yield does not mean profit.
Yeah, I agree, yep.
Long season wheat project with GRDC and COGO. Our aim of this one is to encourage adoption of long season wheats into cropping rotations and farmer scales. We're starting this one this year, so we don't have any data or anything, but just a quick run through. So we're going to have 2 times of sowing, late March, early April, and late April, early May. We have 2 sites in Kojana, and we're going to have the option to be able to graze it and see the cost-benefit analysis. So we'll have sheep in, take them out, see if it still yields as well as the areas that are ungrazed. Possible varieties, we're going to do a Skepta, Illaboo, a Croc, Devil Zen and Nighthawk. We're also aiming, and we've got a few people to establish a group of growers who are really interested in this project and to get on the bandwagon, and so we can provide in-season growing information and an agronomic package to them at their conclusion of the project. So if there's any interest by growers in the room, it's probably just going to be a WhatsApp group where we can just get a lot of information out to you guys. So I would
Before
love
you
to.
go, we're already growing our crop in Beaufort,
Yeah?
and it looks probably one of the most exciting things I've seen in wheat
Yeah.
since I've been farming.
Yeah.
There's a demand in Bunbury. Bungie want it for the Indonesian food market. CBH don't want to know about red wheat, and that's a fact of life, so be it. But we've grown it now for 2 years, and cracked 2 dry ones, and I am staggered how they've finished. And the Acroc sits in first nodes for months and escapes the frost. So I had my arm twisted to grow it because I've given up on wheat in forest gravel. It looks like it's going to displace some barley. We've had to grow barley on barley, and now we can put these red wheats in. So if you want a site in Dark, it's probably 600 or 700 hectares of going in.
Absolutely. It's going to run for 2 years, so we're going to need another 2 sites next year as well. So I'll definitely hit you up on that one, Ray.
What's your seeding window for your red wheats?
Just put it in before the canola. It's not grazed, probably won't graze it, but for us it was the rotation of getting away from barley on barley. It was driven by Bungie. They came over and annoyed us and supplied the seed. We saw the benefits the first year, and last year was the year it would have fallen over. We had no rain after August, and the whole thing should have collapsed, but it didn't.
How did you compare the barley?
It's the first time we've out-yielded barley with wheat.
Yeah, I've definitely had a lot of positive comments from that project, even though it hasn't even started yet. A lot of interest from growers as well. So.
But the only demand will be Bungie.
Yeah, Bungie we're negotiating with to do some more red wheat trials as well at the moment. We're just waiting to hear if it's going to go ahead.
Are you going to be measuring the frost severity at those sites as well?
Yeah. So that's involved in the project, is to see if we can avoid the frost windows.
Are you measuring like the temperatures?
No. Any more on that? No. So Congo summer cropping. This year we had 2 summer crops in the Kojonup and Murrudup area. Summer cropping, we were just seeing how they improve soil structure and health and final dry matter as well. So we had 2 sites, Kojonup, so Nathan Leach, thank you for hosting that site, unfortunately. It wasn't what he wanted to do, but he did it anyway. We had a bit of a mishap with some of his spraying, so we got some land off him. So here this was quite an interesting site. So we had Sweet Sudan, Brassica, Leafmore and Ceradella sown. It was in mid-September, so it was quite the perfect time to put in a summer crop, really. The Sweet Sudan is a C4 plant species, so it's able to cope with higher temperatures and less available water and nitrogen, and was great for grazing. Whereas the Brassica Leafmore is a C3 and therefore struggled quite a bit more with those temperatures. We're awaiting soil samples to come back to compare the soil health and see if it improved or not. However, we had 64 mils of rain between September and now on this site, and we found with the Brassica Leafmore and the Ceradella, it had 3 to 4 bug sprays already before December, and struggled a lot with the moisture and didn't do well. Whereas the Sweet Sudan was very impressive. I think between September, if I remember rightly, between September and November, it was already this high in head. The sheep grazed it 3 times and it's still doing well. So the grower was very happy and will definitely be using Sweet Sudan again. Murrudup site, thanks Ben Webb for this one. We were able to experiment a few different things here. It was really good. So it was sown between October and November. It was quite a lengthy process with a few issues along the way. We used the summer cropping in conjunction with ploughing as well for this to be able to mix earlier applied surface lime through the soils and hopefully help raise soil pH and overcome some non-wetting issues. So we did some forage sorghum, sorrel millet and Japanese millet and sunflowers and cowpeas. So the sunflowers and cowpeas again struggled with the moisture. The forage sorghum and the millets did quite well. The sunflowers did do well, the cowpeas not so much. There was different depths of seed placement with the plozza plough, and which caused staggered germination as well. And there was a lot higher germination rates in where the soil moisture was evident. Yeah, so that's about it. It was still quite a good site to do. So, was there any questions on that one? Nothing? Yeah?
What's the follow-up from growing the summer crops?
So with Colgo there isn't a follow-up with this project. However, we do have a GRD summer cropping as well, and there's a follow-up of the winter season to see how that performs, whether it does any better, any worse with having a summer crop the year, or just before the winter season. GRDC survey invertebrates associated with chaff. So with this one, it's just currently in progress. We've got pitfall traps out at chaff dumps and lines, and are just measuring the invertebrates to see if there's increased insects, etc. At the sites and how we can decrease them. The Ripper Gauge project, so we're using this one to evaluate grain yield and economic benefits. It started in 2018 and we have 2 sites at Darken and Broom Hill, and this year is the final year which we'll just be measuring the effects.
It's not too late to go back and work out what your costing structure is, because you would have a record of everything that you've done and easily apply a cost to the river and things like that.
Yeah, I'm sure that could be something we could look into. I only just come on in July, so I'm not too sure in terms of how we would go about it, I'm sure it would be easy to do.
We might ask one of our agronomist friends to actually help us do an economic analysis on that. Would that be okay?
Yeah,
Yep,
great,
sure.
thank
We
you.
can
And
do that.
realising obviously
Yeah.
that there's benefits in the following year too after it's been ripped. It's not just a single year.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing as well. We've got we're doing the analysis on the second year to see if it has performed better with the ripping the year before, etc.
It would be fantastic if we could have like a 5-year project on something like this, because then we could follow it all the way through. The investment partners don't tend to like to do that for that length of time. It's usually around a 2-year project, and for COGO it might be 1. So we do what we can within the constraints of what we've got, but we would love to have a long-term 5-year, 10-year site.
Our Darken site, hosted by Paul Duffield. Here we had a control, a depth charger, tail and ripper and a moldboard plough. In 2018 we had canola and that was seeded in May. The control, you can see we've got the 2018 data. The control and depth charger yield is the highest, followed by tail and ripper, and the moldboard plough was the lowest yielding. Last season we had planted barley. Control and tail and ripper was the highest yield, followed by moldboard. Depth charger was the lowest yield. So here there's an increase. There's a decrease noted in the crop yield across the treatments in the paddocks, because the one treatment isn't outperforming the other treatments over the consecutive years.
Was that replicated or was it just 14?
No, it was replicated. All our trials are replicated.
Was it replicated so there was a 12 plots altogether or was it just 4 plots?
No, yeah, so there's 3 replications of every treatment. Yeah, so that's an average. Those yields are the average, yeah.
What was the depth of the moldboard?
I'm not too sure of that one off the top of my head. We will find out and I'll leave it.
That for you.
Yeah. Our Broomhill site, thanks Craig for that one as well. Our treatments here, we had a control, mobile plough and rip, deep rip, plozza and rip. In 2018 we had lupins. As you can see, the MVP and rip and plozza and rip all yielded higher than the control and deep ripping. And then in 2019 we sowed Skepta wheat, plozza rip, MVP and rip were the highest yielding plots, followed by the deep ripping. Plozza and control plots were the lowest yielding. As you can see again, there's a marked decline noted in the treatments over the site. Any questions on that one? GLAC summer cropping. So we seeded this site in December in 2019, so it was quite a late seeding of that. We've had a dry summer which has caused a slow germination. However, it's just started to germinate now after 55 mils the other week at the site. So there'll be more information on this one coming up, but we are aiming to assess the winter crop this year as well. And that's all. This is our up and coming projects for this year. But other than that, thank you. If there's any questions.
We do have our trials update booklets. As soon as they are approved by our investment partners, they will be coming out via mail to you. So we're hoping in the next few weeks